grown-ups. And loads of candy, makeup, masks, and more. Toys R Us will make your Halloween supernatural.
It's time for more Monster Madness.
We've got no choice. We've got to go back.
In my eyes, all slasher films tie back to one original inspiring plot, Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None. The 80s slasher was heavily inspired by Italian giallo films, who in turn were based on pulp crime novels, who all owed a debt to Agatha Christie's classic story. And, when you compare the 80s slasher to And Then There Were None, the connection is easy to make. There's an ensemble cast of unique characters, a hidden killer that is a mystery until the end of the plot, the killer uses unique methods to wipe out all of their victims, and finally, a few specially talented characters catch the killer and bring them to justice. And, although most 80s slashers incorporate these mystery tropes, I'm not sure if any do it better than April Fool's Day. Let's break it down. April Fool's Day is the story of a group of college friends who arrive at their friend's isolated island beach house to celebrate her birthday on April Fool's Day. All of the friends are the classic stereotyped characters: the jock, the promiscuous girl, the prude, the artsy joker, the outcast, and the more complex heroic types. But, for April Fool's Day, these stereotyped characters still feel flushed out and have been given enough depth for you to want them to live. In fact, there's a respect given towards every element of the script. The premise of April Fool's could be used as a gimmick, like in another 80s slasher, Slaughter High. But instead it becomes a lot more, adding extra challenges for the victims and making them doubt what is really happening at first. The movie is definitely a little more of a murder mystery than it is a slasher, but it still has enough slasher elements to be considered amongst the ranks. But for an 80s slasher, it feels remarkably smart and nuanced. The movie isn't blunt or straightforward, there's plenty of twists and turns. In fact, the whole opening sequence of the film where the cast takes a ferry to the island is so engaging and full of surprising little moments, it's hard not to be won over. The third act is amazing, and the final reveal of the killer, although predictable and a little silly, is so well executed that it just feels right. There's an epilogue scene that undermines the quality of the whole film, but it can easily be overlooked. So, for story, April Fool's Day bags a 5. It's hard to walk the line of jump scares and cheap thrills in a horror movie. How do you make a movie without that much gore and no on-screen kills scary? By building tension to a peak and delivering a well-earned jump scare. And, sometimes, April Fool's Day does that. There are a few moments in the film where the shock feels good, like the tension was built up and the scare was well executed. The movie does use the classic cat scare, which comes across as comical, but also comes after a long, tense sequence, and so you can't altogether hate it. April Fool's Day isn't really scary, but it does have enough atmosphere and scares to warrant a decent score, and that's why it gets a 3. Any murder mystery seems like an inappropriate place for comedy, but somehow the film works in funny and charming moments. The opening shot, made on a handheld VHS camera, leads up to a cute little punchline, and that punchline is called back later in the film. There are plenty of these nice moments of comedy, from little quippy one-liners to slapstick pranks, to an absolutely absurd contortionist act done by two characters while having sex. Overall, there's just enough levity to make the characters engaging and human. So, despite not being all that funny, April Fool's Day brings home a 2. Sadly, the one department where April Fool's Day doesn't deliver is in kills. There are no on-screen kills in the movie, so there's no fun, gory moments like we expect from an 80s slasher. We do get to see the aftermath of all the violence, which is just enough gore to tide a horror fan over, but not enough to really satisfy the bloodthirstier fans. So, for kills, the movie gets a 2. Finally, there's craft. I've already spoken about the fantastic writing, so I won't go into it that much again here. Instead, I want to talk about how well the film is directed. The cinematography isn't that interesting and the score isn't remarkable, but the actors do a phenomenal job with their direction, and the tension is built so masterfully in several sections that the payoff that we do get is great. Although April Fool's Day isn't remarkable in its creativity or technical elements, it still is a well-crafted slasher, warranting a 3 on the craft scale. It's clear that April Fool's Day is a standout, but how does its score add up? Overall, it nets a very respectable 15 out of 25. and I would easily recommend it to anyone looking for a fun, captivating movie to watch on an October night. It has a spooky atmosphere and slasher elements, so it's not too scary for newcomers to the genre. It really is a whodunit slasher at its finest. So, I advise you all check it out. And until next time, stay spooky.